Hello there everybody, Sam's Trains here and welcome back to the railway. Today I'm looking at Hornby's latest Liverpool and Manchester rolling stock release. Well, I can honestly say that nobody has asked me to review this, and it's probably fair to say that not many people are going to watch this video, but I'm doing it anyway because reviewing the Hornby Era 1 rolling stock is a bit like watching a car crash. Not very nice, not many people like them, but it's also quite difficult to look away. So with that, I am reviewing this. This is the Hornby Liverpool and Manchester second class coach. And to be fair, all jesting aside, from what I've seen of this model, there's really nothing that offensive about it. Apart from its fundamental inaccuracy, of course, brought about by Hornby's continued refusal to develop a period-accurate chassis for this, but that's nothing new. In fact, even Hornby's listing for this product is much better than the Royal Mail coach that I looked at last time. The write-up seems to have been done by someone who's actually heard of the Liverpool and Manchester, which is a bonus. And the specs are not full of inaccuracies and false promises like the Royal Mail coach was as well. So yeah, as much as they can be, things are looking better for this product. Let's talk about price then. Now, the price of Hornby's Era 1 rolling stock has shot up in recent years. For instance, when this coach, the third class coach, was first released in 2020, the RRP for this was £16.99. Well, now the RRP is £29.99, and even taking inflation into account, that represents a more than 50% price increase. So as you might expect, the price of this coach is on the high side. The RRP is £34.99, and I bought this one for £31.49 at a retailer. So this is a lot of money. I dare to ask the question, is it going to be worth it this time, knowing that it never has been in the past? But I'll ask it nevertheless. Let's find out. Right, let the joy commence. Another 30 quid down the drain and another wonderful Era 1 model in the collection. I hope I will enjoy this one, but I probably won't. Anyway, let's be positive. The product code is R40438. It is the Liverpool and Manchester second class coach, and that is all she wrote. So let's open it up and see what we've got inside. The silence is palpable, isn't it? Okay, there we have it. It does look pretty cool, actually. This is new, the curtains. I don't think we've seen that before on one of these Era 1 coaches from Hornby, so interested to see how they've gone about those. Anyway, accessories, dead simple, just the usual pair of chain couplings. I've got lots of those anyway, so all good. Let's open this up then and see what this is like. Obviously, it's based on the same chassis as usual, but it's really the body that we're interested in. And let's see what's been done with it. All right. So there it is. It's the usual very, very light model, and it does seem extremely light for 30 quid, but then again, it needs to be light so that your Era 1 locos can haul this and other coaches without any problem. And yeah, I do quite like the look of this body, actually. It's an interesting change from what we've seen before, but it does beg the question, what is this based on? And I have been doing some digging on this, and I'm laughing because it seems that once again, this has been based on a postage stamp. This postage stamp, which was issued by the post office in 1980, I believe, somewhere around there at least. And on the right there, you can see the vehicle that today's model was based on. Now, obviously, our knowledge of these early railway vehicles is extremely limited, so normally you wouldn't expect to see a model based on a postage stamp. The thought of that is just patently ridiculous. But obviously, when knowledge is as sparse as it is for something like this, you have to rely on whatever you can get your hands on. But at the very least then, you would hope that this would match the image we see in the postage stamp. If it doesn't, then there's no hope for it, is there? And indeed it doesn't. First of all, as you can see, this model is much longer than what we see in the drawing, and that's because this model is based on the replica chassis which was created for Stephenson's rocket about 100 years after the original vehicles existed. And as a result, here we've got a chassis which is much more modern than the one shown on the postage stamp. As you can see, the axle boxes, the buffers, the frames, they look completely different to what we've got here on the model. This model looks much more modern because it's got more modern buffers, more modern axle boxes. It really looks nothing like what we see on any of the early drawings. And in the past, me and others have begged Hornby, please don't just create coaches based on the replica chassis because it's just not accurate. But it's kind of a bit too late to say that now because Hornby have created more or less their entire range using these chassis. And so to change now that they've all been done, is a little bit futile. The other thing is that for over £30, this does feel like it's lacking quite heavily. I mean, there are lots of ways Hornby could have plussed this, I think, for over 30 quid. They could have included some passengers, that would have been great, perhaps some luggage to put in the rack on the roof. But we've got none of that. It's just a light, cheap-feeling coach, which doesn't seem to be that accurate, and it's got no other features as well. So from that perspective, it's disappointing. On the other hand, it does add a bit of variety to the Era 1 collection, but that's about the only thing going for it. Regardless though, let's take a closer look at what they've done with this coach. So, I've talked about the inaccuracy of this model, and with that out of the way, for what it is, I don't think this model is too bad. In fact, with a bit of imagination, I can see a train of these looking pretty good behind Stephenson's Rocket or Lion or something like that. It's reasonably nicely made, it's quite a pretty little thing, especially with the curtains. Yeah, I don't mind it too much. I think my biggest problem with this, aside from the inaccuracy, is the price. Over £30 for this 14-gram model, that's what this weighs, seems extremely pricey indeed. Especially when you really think about this. I mean, what are the usual reasons for models being quite expensive? Well, a big one is research and development. Well, I think I've shown already that there's been very little research put into this thing, considering that it is based on this reproduction chassis. And I should also point out that there was never a second-class coach that was made for one of these reproduction chassis, so Hornby can't even claim that it's accurate to the replicas as they could with the first-class coach. The second major cost in new models is of course the tooling costs, but here those costs should have been less too because, again, this is the same chassis. They've not had to develop or tool a new chassis for this. All they've had to tool up for this is the new body, so again, that should have cost less. Another big cost is usually decoration, and yeah, with the first class coach, you can see why the decoration cost would have been quite substantial. Here though, the paint job is much simpler. We don't have that intricate lining. We don't have lots of different colours used. It's a much simpler model, so no, I don't think this is worth over £30. I do pay £30 for rolling stock with a smile on my face when it's been well researched, when it's high quality, when it's been demonstrated to be accurate, when there is a lot of complexity in the model. None of that is true here. But anyway, let's take a close look. Here's the moulding on the side of the coach, which does seem to be relatively faithful to the postage stamp, even though it has been stretched out a little bit to fit the longer chassis. I do think the moulding looks a little bit soft and shallow in places though. I mean, these panels seem to have a lot more relief if the shadowing on the drawing is anything to go by, but I guess on the grand scheme of things that's not a massive issue. Let's talk about decoration then. So it is a simple paint job. We've got the brown of the body here, and then we've got the door handles which have been picked out. That's been done very nicely. And then we've got the various steps and the little perch for the guard or whatnot, which have been painted on the ends as well. The roof has been painted grey, although this has been done quite messily. You can see the edge here is not tidy at all, and some of these little sections up on the roof have been left brown, while some of them have been painted grey. So it does seem like a pretty low effort product, if you ask me. The curtains are quite interesting because these are separately fitted parts, which seems like a weird and unnecessary way to go. But of course, this way, these can be painted separately and then applied to the model so that you don't get any paint bleed or pink paint on the rest of the model, which has worked really nicely. The buffers are separately fitted and metal. Obviously, it shouldn't really have these buffers for the 1830s. These should be dumb buffers, but you get it at this point. These are not dreadfully accurate where the chassis is concerned. And speaking of the chassis, this is a new paint job for this chassis, I think. It has all been done in the brown, except for these buffer shanks, I guess that's what I'll call them, which have been done in the black, as have the axle boxes, springs, and the bottom of the steps. Finally, we've got the guard around the luggage rack, which is an etched piece that's made of metal, so there is a little bit of quality here. And from another point of view, I do kind of like the way this fits into the range. I mean, we've got the first class coach, which looks really elegant. It's fully covered, it's got the windows. Then we've got the second class coach, which has still got a roof over it, but it's just got curtains instead of enclosed windows. So it's a little bit cheaper, but not super basic to cruel levels. And then of course we've got the third class coach, which has got no covering whatsoever. The passengers there would be exposed to the elements. So this is a nice kind of middle ground between the first and third class coaches, which I like. But anyway, enough of staring at this thing. Let's get it down onto the track and let's see how it runs. So here is today's test setup then. I've chosen Lion as the locomotive because I think Rocket would be too weak to haul all of these coaches. So I've got some of the first class coaches, I've got the second class coach behind those. According to Hornby's website, you would have a separate train of these second class coaches, but obviously I've only got one and that's enough for me. So I have put it among the others. That might not be accurate though. Then I've got the third class behind that, and at the very back, the Royal Mail coach, just to show what variety is available. And we've also got Defecating Daniel on the back, just to bring up the rear. So in terms of the free rolling test for the second class coach, no problem with this at all. It is a good design of chassis in terms of how free rolling it is. All the way down to the bottom of Gordon's Hill, very, very free rolling. So hopefully Lion won't have any trouble hauling all of this. How many have we got? 7 coaches. Let's see how it gets on then with the second class coach in the middle. Here goes. So on the middle line, I've got Stevenson's Rocket. Let me bring her in. And she's hauling some of my own livestock wagons that I launched a few weeks ago. And unfortunately, the mixed freight set that I launched has now completely sold out, but I do still have some of these livestock wagons. They are 85% sold out now, but at the time of filming, they are still in stock. So if you're interested in those, I will pop a link in the description for you. And then on the inside line, just to show a bit of a mixed goods train, I suppose, I've got Tiger. Where is she? Here she is, with a mixture of my wagons and Hornby's wagons. It's certainly an eclectic mix, isn't it? Anyway, let's catch up with the passenger train. So obviously we're not really testing anything new here because it has the same chassis as usual. So I'm really just showing what this looks like as part of a train rather than seriously testing the performance, but it is testing the performance as well. And as you can see, it is absolutely fine. And, you know, as much as I don't like the inaccuracies of most of these coaches, especially if we're calling them Era 1, I have to say they do look good. And I almost do kind of wish I had 5 or 6 of these second class coaches so that I could make up a full train of them to see what that looks like. I suppose I could do some editing magic and try and make that happen. But you know what I mean, it is nice to have some coaches full stop to run with Era 1 locomotives. Regardless of how accurate they are, and perhaps that's what Hornby have tried to go for with this, and I don't mind that too much. You know, it's fine to have rolling stock that's not that accurate, but I think this needs to be reflected in the price, and at way over £30 for this, that's not the case. So as before, not a great effort from Hornby on these in my opinion, although perhaps they have been working from material that I haven't seen. Perhaps they have found some more drawings which show that this was actually accurate. I'm very, very sure that's not the case, but not 100%. So I want to give Hornby right to reply to this. If they did have material that I haven't seen and they think this is an accurate model and that I've been unfair, I urge them to get in touch with me and I will make that right and set the record straight publicly. But otherwise, I think this is what it is. Let's have some ratings and then let's wrap up this review. So the level of detail I've given 2 star for quite a few reasons. First of all, I've talked about this a lot already, so I won't go into masses more detail. Obviously this model is based on the replica chassis, which is too long and also too modern looking to be truly Era 1. This for me makes this model fictional. It also doesn't have any extras with it. You know, with the Royal Mail coach at least, it came with an a figure. I almost said nice figure there, but of course he did appear to be mid-poo, so let's just say a figure and leave it at that. Yeah, this didn't come with a figure, this didn't come with any extras such as luggage to put on the top or anything. A real missed opportunity there, so 2-star is the best I can do. Performance though, not a problem at all. It stays coupled, it works as it should do, nice and free rolling, no issues with that at all. It's even nice and light so that it's easy to haul. The quality is not too bad at all. I've given it 4-star. Obviously this is very light and plasticky, but I'm not going to mark this down for that because it's supposed to be that way. It's supposed to be light. However, the paintwork wasn't the best, particularly around the roof where it looked a little bit messy, but it was nowhere near as bad as the Royal Mail coach for paintwork where there were blemishes and fingerprints on that model. This is neater than that, so it gets a better score for quality. Value for money though, yeah, this is not the best. £34.99 for this, that's the RRP, or a retailer price of £31.49. It lacks accuracy, it's got very few features. Over £30 for this seems like a rip-off. So 2-star, not a good score for value. So overall that is 5.78 out of 10, which is slightly higher than the Royal Mail coach from last time, but that's still a grade of F. I think unless the prices come down, this is not really something I could recommend. Into the logbook it goes then, and it's 8th place, just above the Royal Mail coach and below the Hornby pallet van. So there you have it then folks, that was my review for the Hornby Liverpool and Manchester second class coach. And you know, if this was reasonably priced, I would say this is perfectly acceptable, just as a bit of fun. But of course, it's very expensive, and with high prices comes high expectations, and unfortunately, this does not meet those high expectations. So it's another disappointing model. Please do comment down below and let me know what you think about this. And also, would you like to see any future Hornby Liverpool and Manchester releases? I don't mind reviewing them, but are you tired of seeing these? Do you find these videos useful, or would you rather see videos of something else? Any feedback on that would be much appreciated. But for now, if you have watched it for this long, thank you so much for watching this video. Check out the affiliate links in the description if you are interested. This is not something I'd recommend, but hey, if you want to buy one and use my link, be my guest. For now though, thanks again for watching, and I'll check in with you again very soon. Alright, cheers folks, you take care.